Welcome to First Tuesday. For those of you who may not be familiar with what First Tuesday is, my name is Corey Jones. I'm the director of Compassion Works for All. We're a nonprofit based here in Little Rock. And on the first Tuesday of most months, we try to have a live conversation with folks who are doing good work. From time to time, it's with folks who are kind of in our line of work, working with people who are incarcerated. From time to time, it's people in the mindfulness meditation field. From time to time, it's people who are just doing really good things, which is our case today with Osyrus. So Osyrus Bolly, we are super excited to have you here. Will you take just a couple of minutes to just introduce yourself and let people who may not be familiar with you or your work, let people know who you are and what you're choosing to do with your life right now?
Yeah, thank you, Corey. My name is Osyrus Bolly, and I'm a activist, artist in the community. I work with the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, doing racial equity work, and I also am an organizer for the Little Rock Freedom Fund. With the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, I focus on doing racial equity workshops, youth engagement, advocacy, helping identify racial inequities and policies on the city level and during the legislative session, and helping to help people become more comfortable with developing their advocacy voice so that they can talk about the issues that we prioritize on our Citizens First Congress agendas. And so we deal with a lot of legislative bills that focus on economic justice, education, environment, civil rights, and voting rights and election reform. And so I've been working with them for 4 years now, and just been really helping to organize and build grassroots leadership and coalition building in rural areas and in the city of Little Rock, so all over the state of Arkansas. With the Little Rock Freedom Fund, it was founded by Don Jeffrey in the summer of resistance of 2020. And we were already doing a lot of work in our communities together as far as working with different people to do our Know Your Rights tours, and as well as helping to build leadership in our communities by being active in the city and keeping people informed on what's going on and encouraging others to be involved in civic engagement. So in 2020, we decided to officially form an organization called the Little Rock Freedom Fund. Like I said, it was founded in the summer of 2020 during the summer of resistance. And we wanted people that were involved in direct action, civil disobedience, protests, to know that we were creating a system to support them if they got arrested during the protest. And so it was a service that we still offer today, where we bail people out and offer help with legal counsel, finding legal counsel. But the main thing was we wanted to raise awareness to racial injustice in our community, as well as encourage people, if they want to step into the role of a protester or a frontline responder, that they would have support, and we would create a system of support around them in any direct action. And since then, we've continued to bail out people who are just in jail for basically not being able to afford their bail. So we're really trying to emphasize the importance of not punishing people for poverty, not punishing people for not having access to the finances needed to bail out, and letting people know that, hey, there's other ways that you can find your role working in the community as well. So, we help people find employment, housing, and just things that they need to get on their feet so they don't have to sit in jail for months or years awaiting a trial. Mm-hmm. Then we've also added elements to our organization where we do voter education and voter engagement and voter registration. We've been doing a bar and a club tour where we go to bars and book entertainment and tell people the importance of the issues on the ballot and the candidates, and do voter registration, as well as stepping into mutual aid work and community healing justice and supporting the arts. And so that's pretty much what I do 7 days a week when I'm not trying to be at home relaxing.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like you don't ever have an opportunity to be at home relaxing. That man, that's
Yeah.
so much. And especially with all of the various areas that you hit with economic justice, environmental justice. Could you talk just a little bit for people who may not be aware of why you're essentially punishing people for their poverty through like our bail system and our prison system? What does that look like for people when they're just sitting in jail?
To the average person that's never been arrested, people assume that you're not sitting in jail for petty crimes or misdemeanors. They assume that you're only in jail because you committed an act that is just you're a danger to the community, and the bail is so high put that way because you're a threat to the community, and that's not the case. There are people who are sitting in jail for offenses that for lack of better words, if you just happen to make a mistake or anything like that, you're sitting there for a long time. Earlier this year, we bailed out somebody that had been sitting in jail since 2020, and it was a few $100s that were needed basically, and she was a mother, single mother, and she basically wanted to make sure she got to her court date so that she could keep custody of her children. And these are the type of things that people are struggling with. So we have to understand that the system of money bail is unnecessary on so many different levels, because you have people who are not guilty or haven't been convicted of anything, and they're just basically sitting there because they don't have the money, or that they can't find good legal representation to get a bond hearing or something like that. And so we advocate for bail reform, and we advocate in particular with the youth for no juvenile fines and fees, because that creates a system of debt slavery too, as well, for parents who get penalized because they can't afford to pay the fines and the fees that are associated with juvenile detention. And so we can't be punishing people because they can't afford to pay these bills and fines and fees, or if they just choose to use that money for things that they consider necessities like food and shelter.
Right.
They don't have money to give away to the correctional facilities and things like that. And so we just got to get people to understand that, punishing people for poverty is not a crime. We're all, majority of people are a few paychecks away from being in positions where we're very vulnerable and have to, figure out what we're going to do for our food and our shelter. And so we let people know that we're understanding, and if we have money to help prevent people sitting in jail for months, or in some cases years, we'll be there. We don't ask for it back. All we ask is that you go to your court date. If you need a ride to your court date, once we bail you out, we will provide transportation. If you need a meal or after court or after you get bailed out, we will provide that. If you need a list of resources, if you get on your feet, we will provide you with that. And we just ask you to, just stay in contact with us. And then also, if you want to share your story, we'll provide a platform for you to share your story and tell people your testimony. So it's important that we end money bail for misdemeanors and not punish people for, like I say, for poverty.
Yeah. And it strikes me as just another one of those parts of our prison system where there's enough information out there, there's enough research, there's enough data to show we don't need this anymore. Like we know that this is doing more harm than good. So what is it that's continuing to hold it in place? Why is it that we have not gotten rid of that yet as a society?
There are a number of reasons why. We know that the prison industry complex is a $1 billion or whatever amount it is, $1 billion industry where people are, basically making profit off slave labor. And when you have a system that's in place where people talk about, they say things like catchphrases like, we're going to be tough on crime, I automatically understand when they say those type of phrases that this is more about incarceration and money versus rehabilitation or empowerment or just having people, giving people educational opportunities. And so money is the main thing. During the last legislative session, when we were talking about eliminating those bonds for misdemeanors and just doing maybe cite and release or putting something else in place as a way to document that you were going down the right path in the court system. One judge argued, and he said something that was illegal. I can't remember his name, but he basically said, we need those fines to keep the lights on in the courthouse. You're not supposed to be using that money strictly for utilities and keeping people employed. That's illegal. But in many cases, people do that. You know, we have communities that allow the police departments to do investigative traffic stops in certain areas that they consider high crime areas, just for, they always say that they don't have a quota of who they arrest, but it's basically just to get people off the streets and to, you know, target repeat offenders, what they consider repeat offenders. And so money is the main catalyst and why we cannot get to this system where we're not over incarcerating people, we're not over surveilling people. We don't let racial injustice just go unabated. Money is the main motivation. And people that love to use the phrase, they're going to be tough on crime, I know that they have the intentions to write blank checks to police departments, and they basically are saying that they're making a commitment to make sure every bed in every cell is full. And so we have to get out of that mindset that incarceration is just a way of life, and we have to make sure that there's things put in place in the community that are proven diversion programs and invest in those as well, and stop just investing in, incarceration and torture.
Yeah. Have you come across proven diversion programs that you have found effective or helpful?
I think I have in some places, in some spurts. I've seen programs, in particular with the youth, prevention and intervention programs that actually go above and beyond what they actually have to do to make sure that the youth have productive things to do. If they need jobs, they have access to jobs. If they need programs that encourage them to be creative, they have access to that. They bring in the arts, they bring in financial literacy, conflict resolution, they give tutoring. And these type of programs, I think, are proven to work because by the time they turn 18, they have resources and they're not just out here fending for themselves, and they build relationships and learn how to have those life skills necessary to actually make it. I've seen those type of programs work. For adults, I think there's a really a need, in particular for our young adults, to have some solid structure in programming and not just some people consider ankle monitors a diversion program. I'm totally not with that. And sometimes money is being invested in diversion programs in places that don't have facilities and that right. People go to, or they don't have access to people who need case managers or social workers or therapists for their needs. And so I think that there has to be a real effort and not just money being thrown at people. I think that you can't throw those type of investment dollars in the community and just say, well, find out what y'all can do with it. You have to invest in the communities, but you also have to invest in the people in those communities to ensure that there is good, proven diversion programs for people. employment is always going to be a thing, and housing is going to be a thing. Those are two big issues that people have to make sure they make that investment in. And I understand that that everything isn't a quick fix, and that's why you need you have to understand that people in the community who know what's best works for them, all you have to do is just go talk to them and find out what you need. You don't need to put together a group of out-of-touch stakeholders to give out their ideas and then say, hey, this is a litmus test. Let me just throw this in the community. No, you need to go talk to the real people in the community and connect with them. And they'll tell you what you need. And, long-term wise, you'll have some proven techniques, I think, to use those diversion programs and then for them to be a success.
Yeah. Yeah. I laughed a little when you said that, because that's become so glaringly obvious to me, is just the amount of time we spend listening to experts and people who have done the research and all of these things that you can go and just find out by asking people who are actually living it. I remember being at a conference once where someone was up making a presentation on police brutality and made the statement, we now know that police brutality is real because of their research. And I remember thinking, we now know? Like, this is how we know? And it just seemed like such an odd perspective when you can just go directly to people who are experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think from a nonprofit perspective as well, like you say with the money situation, that's one thing that I try to keep us in check with at Compassion Works for All is, are we actively on a daily basis trying to put ourselves out of business? Because I feel like that ought to be our goal, is eventually you don't need us anymore because society is just being compassionate to each other. And I think we can fall into the trap where we're keeping the problems in circulation because it's keeping us funded. So we do just enough to make a bit of an impact so that we can, demonstrate that so we can get more funding, but we don't actually work to end the problem, because then we end our own organization. And I would love to see that change. Yeah. You mentioned racial equity, and I had a question about race that I kept trying to formulate, but it finally just came down to, why haven't we figured this out yet? Like, what is it with racial inequality? What is it with things like white supremacy? What is it with all the things about race that we're still working on, that we definitely shouldn't still be working on? And especially from your work, what is it that you find yourself constantly fighting against?
Well, in the work that I do, a lot of times the issues that get worked on are the issues that are like currently trending. That's basically the foundation of what happens in the nonprofit sector, I think. And so, like, what we try to do with my position is, as a racial equity coordinator, is to let people understand and talk about their biases, understand privilege, understand that people's definitions of merit, they vary for different people. Some people think that they got a good education, that's why they got a good job. Some people think that I know the right way to network, and that's how I got a good job. And people's definitions of merit aren't really the same across the board. And so, it hasn't been fixed yet with us with racial injustice and racism, because the system of white supremacy is so ingrained in society. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. That it's happening, because it's just, like I say, it's just become so ingrained in our society. We have to get to a point where we understand that, privilege is a real thing. And if we don't actively try to change and diversify our culture, diversify our understandings and our interests, then we're going to continue to deal with these issues. In the workplace, if you want to see change happen, change has to happen from the top down. You can't be talking about racial equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion and there's no diversity on your board, there's no diversity in your staff. That is the system of white supremacy at work when you're talking about changing things, but you don't reflect the change that you want to see. So people have to understand that you're going to have to make an effort. In order to be an ally in this fight against racial injustice, you're going to have to sacrifice. Many people talk about, their allyship, and nothing has changed in their life. Mm-hmm. So when you become an ally for the fight against racial injustice, you're going to lose friends. You're going to lose contact with people who are family members. You're going to ruffle feathers at every Thanksgiving and every Christmas dinner. You're not going to get invited to those different activities because you're being vocal and you're making people uncomfortable about their character. Mm-hmm. So to me, when you want to become an ally, you have to understand that you are changing the quality of you're changing the quality of your interactions amongst the people you consider your peers, your friends, and your family, because they understand what you're all about because you're vocal about it. And that's what it takes, so we have to have conversations. We have to be honest with our friends and our family members. We have to be honest in our community and call out racism so that it doesn't get swept under the rug. Mm-hmm. And that's normally what happens. People want you to be quiet about the injustice, or people just want to say, hey, I want you to, they want to say they want to focus on their lives and things like that. Everybody doesn't have the privilege to just focus on their life. Everybody doesn't have that attitude to want to just focus on their life. And so their own life, they have many things that they want to put on the plate because, when you care about the work and you're passionate about what you're doing, there's a lot of emotional labor that you go through on a day-to-day basis that you get no compensation for. Mm-hmm. So if we want to talk about racism and be effective about it, how we end it and tearing down white supremacy culture, we have to be more honest with ourselves. We have to be more honest with the youth. We can't let the what people call the far right play games and trick us into thinking things like critical race theory is being taught to our youth in schools, when actually what we're trying to do is teach I give honest lessons about Black history, because Black history is American history. And so we have to be more honest, and we have to stop falling for the traps where people distract us with issues that we really shouldn't be concerned with. We have way more issues that affect us on a day-to-day basis. We have to be honest. In order to tear down racism in the country, we have to be honest about the conception of this country. We have to be honest about the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. The biggest issues that we don't deal with is the legacies and burdens of slavery. We don't talk about how there was an unequal exchange doctrine when the U.S. Constitution was wrote. We don't talk about how Black people weren't considered human; we were considered property. So the Constitution reflects more of a affirmative action plan for land-owning white males, and it represents for the people. There wasn't an honest input. There hasn't been an honest participation and complete approval for women, for Black people, for Native American, for Hispanic people, the Latinx community. There hasn't been a full approval of just that. And there's, I think, been 27 amendments over all these years. And so we have to get to the point where we can even have to change that, because that is something that people are going crusades about, talking about wanting to uphold the Constitution. Even right now, we got a ballot measure that's trying to take the will from the people. Yeah. Issue 2 wants to tell people that we have to create a 60% supermajority to put things on the ballot to change the Constitution in the state of Arkansas. But we still want to elect officials at 50% plus 1 vote. So if our ballot initiatives have to have 60%, or you want the ballot measures to have 60% yes vote, what's your reasoning for wanting to make people have to do more to get things on the ballot?
Yeah.
it's people are grappling with power. And so people are afraid of losing that power. They pull out everything. And so we just have to be honest. We have to do our due diligent research on people that are talking. And we have to make honest efforts to really diversify things and to make things better to improve the quality of life for all people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so well said. And I want to ask you the same question that I asked a guest a while back, Dr. Larry Ward. I know, like right now, the Supreme Court is getting ready. United States Supreme Court is getting ready to go into a session where a lot of the affirmative action things like that are on the docket, and keep hearing a lot about the court is trying to create a quote unquote colorblind society in America where race is just not taken into account. And so we hear these things, so much happening politically, so much happening culturally. You mentioned critical race theory and just that whole nonsense that sort of became an issue. Do you see this as sort of the birth pains of something new being born, and this is just the struggle that we're fighting our way through because something is coming? Or do you see this as kind of a war that's being waged that really could go either way?
I mean, I'm just speaking for my generation and what we've seen and what we experienced, because I can't talk on too many things in the past. But I just think that, the ideas of different policies and different attitudes that my generation have, I see this as a kind of like a direct response to the way that we are imagining or reimagining our society. There's been a lot of progression in places, and there's been a lot of lack of progression in a lot of areas too. And so I think that what we're seeing is people trying to jump on the issue before it becomes an issue, an issue again or whatever. There's so many things that are going on. Like just for instance, just like the climate crisis. We know things are going to get worse. It's been talked about for years and years and years. We know that global warming is not a myth anymore. It's real. And there's a lot of youth activism that is happening all over the world to address the climate crisis. But yet again, people's main concern is, but what about me? What about my industry? What about my money? Before they can say anything, let's let's try to get as much as we can out of this before we have to make a change. People are seeing that Black people are becoming empowered. Black people are telling people that, this is how our democracy should act. This is what democracy looks like. And they're not ready to see people of color have positions of power or build power in their communities and become aware of things. And so I think that this is, I can't say if the side's doing this. All I can say is there's a clear-cut agenda that seems like it's been a national campaign in this country over the last couple of years to basically try to tear down everything that looks like progression and giving people power, giving people rights, and creating a more inclusive society. There's been attacks on it from every angle. And the only way that they know how to keep things going in that direction is to keep things on the same track. People are talking about budgets more and not giving as much money to police departments. And then you have people coming back around and saying we need to do everything we can to keep giving the police money because they want to see the same issues happen. I was talking to a friend of mine recently when he said, so if we defund the police department and then the community is safe, there's no crime, what's the next step? I'm like making sure that they don't create another problem so that they can continue the police department. If we want to live in a safe society, we have to make sure that people are taken care of and with the priorities and not agendas. So, we have to put something in place where people are protected and cared about. Because if money is going to be the motivation, then we're going to continue to see racism thrive. We're going to continue to see warrior cops and rogue police. We're not going to focus on education. We're going to continue to see the public school system destroyed and school privatization be a tool for the wealthy to get access to our tax dollars to do what they want to do with it. If we don't take care of the environmental issues, then we'll have a load of issues that affect us more and more in the future that we'll be paying for physically and financially. And we don't get on board right now. We had the Little Rock School District Board meeting last week where Little Rock Central High students presented a well thought out plan for the school district to go solar. Main argument came from the utility company about why going solar was a bad idea. And the issue isn't going solar was a bad idea. The issue is they will lose money.
Yeah, right.
Figure out ways power things through solar power. So, this fight is against, the 1%, the wealthiest people. And, they're going to do everything they can to maintain that wealth. And so we have to make sure that we understand and we educate people that, we have to get something put in place to protect us from the true minority in the world.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You hit on so many things there. And the whole school system deal is, to me, just one of the most insane elements of what's happening culturally right now with school choice being pushed. I really don't, I just don't get the logic behind it. You can funnel tax dollars into schools that are already full of well-resourced, well-equipped children and families, or you can funnel them into schools that aren't and help those schools thrive a little more. But instead, we're going to take their resources away. And I don't get it. I will try to avoid my soapboxes, but that's one that I just don't, I can't wrap my head around how people are sincerely making an argument in favor of taking money away from schools instead of just making them all better.
Yeah, we have to, it's so important. I'm glad I'm talking right now because it's so important to get registered to vote before October the 11th. It's so important because the issues with the educational system, school privatization, and our tax dollars being shuffled from one place to the next place, it's happening because we have real efforts from lobbyists and corporations here that want that. They see those billions of dollars that created through taxes, and they want to get their hands on it. And they're not giving any solutions about how we can improve our public schools. They're not giving any solutions on how we can get pre-K in every school and get those schools funded to have that, but they find ways to get money outside of that. And when you take money outside of the schools, you don't have a school board represented. You don't have notification on what they're doing with the money, and it's being used in whatever way they can possible, whether it's on salaries and or just on interest that the school might have. And you don't get certified teachers all the time. So it's just so many issues. But the main thing is we have to put people in positions of leadership. We have to elect them to those offices so that they can represent us and not allow that to happen. Because when these special interest groups come in and they start putting money into politicians' hands or whatever, we don't really see behind the scenes what's going on, and then things like this can continue to happen. So we have to take care of our schools and our public schools in particular, educational system, because we know that this is the first place that they start looking at for the school to prison pipeline.
Yep.
It all starts at an early age, and we have to make sure we improve on our schools so we give our children a legitimate chance at life.
Right. Which again is kind of like the whole bail thing. Like we know that, like that's such a common thing that people know. You know, the whole third grade marker, and that if you're not caught up by third grade, man, your chances of being successful are, you know, they get worse and worse. And we all know this. It's like common knowledge. How are we not actively working to correct it? I don't get that. You hit on another really important thing, I think, of you mentioned just our individualism and individual rights and things of that nature. I was at the jail this morning teaching, and we were talking about this, about connection. We kind of got into the physics of things and how the particles inside of me are the same particles that are inside of you, and we're all, you know, connected on a very particle subatomic level, but then also on this macro level. To what extent in your work is our hyper individualistic culture, and to what extent does that sort of create an uphill battle for you in advocating?
Well, yeah, it can be an issue because, you know, people want to be independent thinkers and kind of think on their own and for themselves and only for themselves. And I try to tell people, you know, like, I don't care what school of thought you are from or where you're a free thinker, independent thinker, that's fine. But it's so important that we come together on things that affect us all, or we see that affects a good majority of people. We have to come together on that. Organizing is so important, and I try not to. I don't like to agitate people who I consider to be community leaders or organizers. I want to uplift them, not antagonize them. And so, in order to create solid institutions, solid organizations, we have to like coalition build.
Yeah.
And so, I don't mind people. If you feel the need to start your own organization and not be a part of an organization, cool. That's totally fine. That's totally perfect. But are there some ways that we could partner and collaborate to work together? Can we create a shared vision of things that we want to see? And then you can go focus on the things that you focus on that I'm not really, don't have the expertise to like go around and talk about or organize people on. But we have to show that if we work with as a collective, you know, we get so much done. You know what I'm saying? A phrase I repeat a lot of people is many hands make light work.
Yeah.
We don't always have to, you know what I'm saying, struggle on our own. There are things that we could work on together. If we don't become so egotistical that when this happens a lot in the nonprofit world too, people want to get the glory for whatever victories are achieved.
Mm-hmm.
That's some people's sole reason for doing the work that they're doing and getting the access to that funding. And when they see other people working on the same goal, instead of extending that, hey, let's work smarter, not harder, let's work together, they even go behind them and try to tear down the work that they're doing. And we create enemies in the charity world. And so, like, my thing is, I don't have to have my name next to I authored this bill, I authored this policy, or I came up with this curriculum. If it does, that's great. But we can't be focusing all the time on who gets the credit for this. Can't be focusing all the time on I want to do this. This is my baby. We can't act like gatekeepers when younger people want to get involved and we want to put positions where, oh, well, they'll be good on social media, but we don't want to put them on the steering committee because they'll cause too much rowdiness or they're too radical, they're too loud. You know, we have to understand that intersectionality has a place. Intergenerational work has a place in the work we're doing. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the elders that came before me that inspired me. The elders still have a lot of good information, a lot of good resources, a wealth of experience that they can share with me to help me with my issues. And so if we could just get past the point where we're working solely to be person that gets the award or gets the credit or only gets to tell their story because they get the glory, we can really navigate and work a whole lot quicker and more efficient. Mm-hmm. I just harp to anybody, coalition building is key. Yeah. If you can build with the people in your community because they don't want to work with you, go national. Mm-hmm. I don't care where you are. I work with people that are on issues that are in Ohio, Mississippi, and I tell them, I like what you got going on. Can I copy and paste it? Do I have the permission to do that? If you have information that is great for what we could do in Arkansas, do you mind coming here to share that? And if there's money in place, can we pay you to come down and do the workshops or do trainings with us? I mean, that's what it's all about. So we have to come together and we have to be able to share. And the individual stuff it's only going to put you in a position where you burn yourself out. You don't want to do this work anymore. So I encourage people, partner, collaborate with those like minds who are actually out here doing the work for the reasons that you consider good, and make sure that, everybody is doing a temperature check every day. Is it about me or is it about us and the work? Yep. And if you come in with that attitude every day, there shouldn't be a reason why we could come together and partner.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes. I love all of that. And speaking of which, you did receive an award recently for your work. The organization Community Change, they selected you as the 2022 Emerging Change Champion Award winner. Congratulations on that. That's a very high honor. And one of the descriptions of the award winners is that they are emerging leaders who demonstrate courage, compassion, leadership, and the promise to build a broader movement for change. And I just thought that was such a wonderful honor to be given to you. And I was especially struck by that word courage, and wonder how you connect with that word, especially as it relates to your work. Where do you sort of require your own courage? Where do you wish perhaps as a society we had more courage? How does that relate to what you're doing?
Honestly, I like that description when they posted this too. I was kind of out of the loop on when I would get the award for a while after I was first informed, so I didn't know much about it. But when I think about courage, I got to give a shout out to Dawn Jeffrey. She's incarcerated. She's the founder of the Little Rock Freedom Fund. And like I say, we started doing this work together before 2020. We were working. First time we met was we were trying to meet to figure out a way how we were going to feed the unhoused in the community. And from that meeting, we didn't even know each other. We just knew each other from social media interactions. We continued to work tirelessly. And if I could think of anybody that represents courage, is her, because even sometimes I'm like, whoa, hold on now. Let's backtrack a second. Do we really want to just jump out there like that and do this direct action? She's like, yes, we got to do this. People got to see us. We need the media attention. We need people to understand that this is an issue, and the only way we can do that is if we create an action. And so she represents courage to me, and that's what I think about the work. She's been incarcerated for over close to 500 days now. She got incarcerated June 25th, 2021, and is awaiting sentencing. And she's always fearless with the work. She's adamant that she's not backing down. She does this from her heart, not for the recognition, but she actually wants to see work done in the community. She does it without even, getting attention a lot of times. We've literally been in the car riding, going to one destination. She'll stop the car on the corner and go in her trunk and see people that are sleeping on the sidewalk or sitting on the sidewalk and give food and give water. And let them know that, hey, there's an organization called the Little Rock Freedom Fund that cares about you, or tell them about some of the things that we're doing in the community and how they can stay in contact, giving her phone number. And so I think about the courage that she has, because the only way I look at it now is like the work that I'm doing now, I had to have the courage to like kind of step up a little bit more, because she left a gap in the work that we were doing, because she was such a community person, and she still is. She's still orchestrating bailouts right now. That's the whole reason why we're doing bailouts in Placer County. She meets somebody, finds out what their bail is, what's going on, and literally writes up a contract and mails it to me. Say, hey, come get this person out if we have the money to do that, or when we get the money, can you please get them out? And so when I think of courage, I think about her, and if I can have a little bit of her courage, and I'm doing all right. Yeah, man, I'm just I'm humbled to even be recognized, because like, over the last couple of years, it's been a lot of working through Zoom and meeting people online and not being able to travel as much. But I've been making it a point to make sure that if I have an opportunity to go connect with somebody, even in another state, I'm there to support with boots on the ground. We're here in Little Rock. Don't shy away from the South. I know people are telling you it's hopeless in Arkansas, it's hopeless in Mississippi, it's hopeless in Alabama or Texas or whatever. But no, there are people working hard every day, and they all exemplify courage as well, because even when the funding dries up and they're saying, nope, we can't, we're not investing in Arkansas anymore. All they do is tighten up on their work, do more. Some of them are picking up part-time jobs. They're becoming entrepreneurs, but they're continuing to do the work. So that's courage too. When people say that you're hopeless, we won't even invest in what you got going on. You still got to continue. We couldn't do any of this work without groups like Decarcerate. We weren't incorporated until we got a fiscal sponsor first. The fact that people actually believe in the work that we're doing and helping us out and not charging us an arm and a leg for information. We just had a vision that we wanted to get out. Don stepped up and said, hey, I need you guys to jump on board with us. So, you know, Ronnie Davis and Omavi Shakur have been very instrumental in making sure that even though she's incarcerated, the Freedom Fund, Little Rock Freedom Fund hasn't died. You know what I'm saying? We didn't stop with the protests like some other groups did, you know. So that's just the courage that I see, courage that Don Jeffrey has, and the courage that everybody else has, that small Black-led organizations, but we making sure that our work is still impactful, even if we don't have huge capacity.
Yeah. Yes. Man, thank you so much for that. That's so good. Can you take just a couple of minutes? I know you had already mentioned issue 2 earlier, but can you take just a couple of minutes to maybe talk about what y'all are focused on right now? I know there's a big push right now for voting, making sure that your name hasn't been purged from the voting rolls, and making sure you're registered. So what's occupying your energy right now?
Well, yeah, we want to make sure that people understand that this election, midterm elections, are very important. What happens to you on the state and local level impacts you way more than what happens on the federal level. Because, you know what I'm saying, this all pertains to you. And you pay taxes. And so the people that are blessed with those nice salaries owe you, basically. So with issue 2, I'm telling people vote no on issue 2. What issue 2 does is it makes it harder for us as citizens in Arkansas, as residents in Arkansas, to get access to the ballot. And like I said, after you do all the work to get the petitions going and they become a success, we're able to vote on things like medical marijuana, raising the minimum wage, and making sure that there's an ethics committee and things of that nature. All sorts of things. They're citizen-led initiatives. And so what they're basically putting on the ballot is it's a legislator initiative, which they don't even have to go through the same things that we do, put initiatives on the ballot. They're basically saying that we don't want initiatives like medical marijuana or raising minimum wage to win on a 50% plus 1 vote. They want to raise that threshold to 60%. And so nothing should be that hard to vote for on the ballot. You know, And so we encourage people to vote no. It's perfect the way it is right now. That simple majority of 50% plus one to get something on the ballot and vote on it with just that amount is enough to make decisions in Arkansas. We don't need to go back and undo anything. And so they want to make it harder for those ballot initiatives that we put on the ballot to get voted into law in Arkansas. So we're voting against that. We did great with our minimum wage. When we voted to increase the minimum wage, we did a great job because we set it on an incremental level where it would go up just like it should with cost of living. And so that was great. People wanted access to medical marijuana. That was great. Some things like people wanted casinos. I didn't vote for it, but people did. They wanted casinos. So you know what? We got casinos. Those are citizen-led initiatives a lot of times. So if you want to see things like that continue to happen where we can keep it at 50% plus one of people that are voting for that, let's vote no on issue 2 and not create this supermajority specifically for ballot measures. Because it won't affect how we vote for candidates. Candidates will still win their elections by 50% of the vote plus one. So let's just keep it simple on the whole ballot, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Man, well, Osyrus, we're just about out of time here. I'm so grateful to get to know you a little bit, and also just to spend some time and hear about your work. As in the nonprofit sector, when I'm around activists and organizers, I feel like that scene from the live action Jungle Book when they all bow to the elephants because the elephants are the ones keeping things going. I always feel like that. I'm like, oh, I'm around organizers and activists. Like, show your respect because, man, you're just out there on the ground every day getting it done and directly interacting with the people who need the work so much. So I'm humbled to get to hear from you and get to be inspired by you today. I want to give you the last word. Is there anything else you want to be sure to get in before we sign off here?
All I can say is, I got 3 things and I'll make it real quick. If you're looking to do advocacy work during the legislative session that's coming up in 2023 in January, and you don't have your C4 status and you don't want to jeopardize your nonprofit status, you're always welcome to invite Citizens First Congress and reach out and join Citizens First Congress to do that. And so just go to our website, citizensfirst.org, and you can learn more about that, or go to the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, arpanel.org, and learn more about how you can be an advocate, even if you have a nonprofit organization or just an organization. There's over 50 organizations that are part of that, and they work on issues that many people in Arkansas are passionate about. Second thing I'll say, we're still doing voter registration. This weekend we'll be continuing that. But if you ever need voter registration done, please reach out to the Little Rock Freedom Fund. Our website is lrfreedomfund.org and or .com. I'm sorry. And yes, we love to collaborate. We love to any type of resources or tools or donations. We would love that as well. And so make sure you go check out the littlerockfreedomfund.com. And free Dawn Jeffrey, you know what I'm saying? Our sentencing date been set in December. She's an activist in the community. She's created a lot of positive work that we're continuing on and carrying on the tradition of what she's doing. But we want to make sure we keep on uplifting her and make sure that she comes home soon. And so just go support the work that she laid the groundwork for, the foundation for, and just continue to support the youth in our community as well, too. I encourage everybody to get youth engagement involved with your organizations. And if you need somebody that can come through and talk to the youth, please do. We started some youth work that we're doing with the Village Place, where we're creating a newspaper with the youth, and we're going to continue to do different workshops with the youth through the Village Place in South End and Little Rock. So there are some ways to get connected with us. Find me on social media. It's just Osyrus Bolly on anything, and I appreciate this opportunity.
All right. Very good, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the folks who joined us live and to everyone that's watching the recording after the fact. Osyrus, we are fortunate to have you in our community. And I look forward to crossing paths with you again soon.
Likewise. Peace.
All right. See you, everybody.